pleasure to introduce the moderator for today's panel discussion, Rajesh Mishra, partner with KPMG India. With over 2 decades of experience across multiple sectors, Rajesh has led strategic initiatives in go-to-market planning, process transformation, and business acceleration across telecom, media, tech, and BFSI sector. His strong grasp of emerging technologies, paired with his solid consulting foundation, enables him to craft innovative, future-ready business models across multiple verticals within business consulting and risk advisory. Rajesh's ability to connect technology trends with business impact makes him an ideal moderator for today's session. Over to you, Rajesh.
Hi, Vinny. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I think that was too detailed. I don't even think I deserve so much. So, a very good afternoon and afternoon come evening to all of you, the audience here. Thank you, IMC, and thank you even Vinny for allowing us this opportunity to meet all these gentlemen here and have a discussion. Friends, I'll take cue from the session that has gone back. My colleague, my friend, Mr. Sumit Kapoor just started off, and we had a rich panel and speakers as well, and we have them now. Continuing from there, so a brief introduction, as she's already mentioned, I'm Rajesh, I'm from KPMG, working here for the last 5-6 years across industries, technologies. Today, we are here to discuss on a topic that how will 5G reshape the enterprise segment in the future, and which are the actual industries that are more poised for this, which are the stronger ones for this. Moving ahead, I thought, let me first things first, let's take a backdrop. There has been a huge movement in the last 2.5 decades from 1G to 5G. And when I look at it in fragments, the movement from 1G to 4G was more of a G plus 1. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, it was 1G additional. It moved from voice, it came to data, and then it came to speed, and then unlimited speeds. And we are now discussing about 4G to 5G. Now 4G to 5G is comparatively more unique. It's not only about additional 1G being added, but it is about way beyond that. Up to here, it was more about people-centric, people reaching out data. We all in this room, I'm sure, remember the days where we had those bulky, huge phones. From there, we have moved on to the ubiquitous smart ones that have the entire internet and data rest in our pockets. Going to the next level, we are not talking only about people. It's not only about people centricity, but 5G talks more about moving to things. And that's where we define IoT, Internet of Things. Machine to machine comes into picture. Where this platform extends and brings even machine communication into picture. The question is, this has been going by leaps in other countries. How will it go ahead in India? We have today a very strong, very rich panel. The market scenario, today it contributes to around, this business contributes around $1.3 trillion. It should be moving to around 10x, $13 trillion in the next 5 years. But definitely every business, every upscale comes with its own set of challenges and lots of collaboration in this case that is required. Collaboration not only in terms of platform, but collaboration in terms of technology, in terms of different players coming together. Most importantly, it is policy. So I have a rich set of panel speakers over here across. We'll have one-line introduction of all. And I can only say people together here bring about overall 150 years plus of experience, which is rich, which is diverse, which is across industries, and which is across nations. I have Mr. Gopal, who comes from Vodafone. May I request you to speak a line about yourself, sir?
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gopala Krishnan. Gopal to all of you. I head Vodafone Idea Enterprise Business Technology as a CTO. I also head the IoT business as a line of business head, having 2 hats currently. I've been in the company for the last about 5 years, in the industry for the last 30 years, all in all in telecommunications industry. Happy to be in this panel and meeting you all. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Piyush.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Piyush Sinha. So I am presently working for Red Hat India. So for last almost 4 years, prior to that, I've been into all NEPs, typical NEPs like Nokia, Alcatel, Lucent, all those companies for more than 2 decades. So almost 25 years in telecom industry. Presently in Red Hat, I am heading the Center of Excellence for Telco for India, South Asia, Australia and New Zealand.
Thank you, Piyush. Julian?
Hi, my name is Julian Gorman. I'm the head of Asia Pacific for GSMA. I've been with GSMA for 10 years, but that's after working for MTN, Vodafone, Ooredoo around the world. My interest in telecoms has always actually been on how we use telecoms to activate and transform industry, even from the earliest days. I think if I look across Asia Pacific, the full area I look after, from Afghanistan to the Pacific, not including China, it's a very diverse region. You know, you have Korea, Japan, first to do 5G. You have small countries who are starting to explore. But India obviously stands out, not just from scale, but I think it's starting to redefine the 5G landscape. You know, the last 6 years have been written in terms of China 5G or America 5G. India, you know, through its fast rollout, frugal innovation and growing industry, and I think, and commitment from the government, is starting to provide a new reference point for the rest of the world to follow. So great to be part of the panel.
Atul, a line of introduction, and then we'll start with questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Atul Joshi. I head sales for telco for AWS for India, Southeast Asia. Last 25 odd years in telco, started with an operator, then moving to an SI, worked for OEMs like Nokia and Ericsson, and large GSIs, and now to a cloud provider. So happy to be part of this panel, some of them whom I work very closely with. Thank you.
Harpinder?
Good afternoon. My name is Harpinder. I'm from AMD. I'm responsible for embedded wired and wireless business. I'm glad to be here.
Mr. Feng?
Yes, everyone, good afternoon. My name is C.Y. Feng. I'm from Pegatron Business Group 6. I'm responsible Business Group 6. This business group is responsible for all the communication products within Pegatron. Pegatron is a company with 40 billion yearly revenue, and we have we call ourselves as a DMS. It means that design and manufacturing services. So you can see that we pretty much focus on the design. So in my business group, we have the 5G O-RAN solutions, enterprise, and data server solutions, and also kind of the CP products overall. So that it's really great to be here as the very last one, introduce myself. I hope I'm not the eldest one in the panel discussion, so that I hope that today we have very nice, productive discussion. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, each one of you, for your introduction. And I think back to seat, let's begin. We have a set of questions designed by ourselves. Some come from audience, some on demand. And we thought let's have this discussion and this session and understand. One is, Gopal, may I first start with you? And by the way, if I ask a question to Gopal, but all are free. You may want to please have your views. So what do you see is the 5G landscape in India and vis-a-vis the foreign countries, the way it is growing, the way it is developing? If you could just give a view on this.
Okay, from I represent telco, so I can present the telco view of it. 5G, apart from technology, you know, 5G gives you an enhanced mobile broadband, faster internet speeds, and apart from that, it presents a strategic opportunity for telcos, especially in the enterprise space. I represent enterprise for the last many years now. So it's a strategic option that is available for the telcos to address the industry-specific use cases or industry-specific problems as it pans out in India when the 5G got launched and it gets adopted into the system. So if you look at the industries, based on a lot of things have been spoken about 5G, it's most written, most spoken in terms of technology for the last 2 years. So I just want to specifically focus on what has been our experience in the last 1 year. What are the things which are actually paving the way for 5G adoption from an enterprise standpoint, therefore the shaping up of the landscape. I see lot lot of dependency of 5G adoption in the enterprise space is slowly depending on the use case capabilities. A lot of people think that technology is an easy to adopt kind of a model, but technology does not give the final outcome. It's a use case which actually is more important than the technology. While technology can be deployed easily, but it's an advent of use case which actually differentiates between the enterprise taking advantage of 5G as a technology and not. Therefore, I see from the last 1 year, 1.5 years of active involvement with the enterprises across different sectors, I see the landscape in terms of adoption of 5G is prominently into two sectors. One is smart manufacturing, where I see a lot of work is happening in terms of factory operations, the OT, IT integrations, the seamless native language integration happening between OT and IT is paving the way for adoption of 5G becoming better. So smart manufacturing is one where I see the landscape changing with the adoption of 5G. And second is a smart mobility, where 5G is a clear-cut technology which can be taken into straight into the use cases and then give the right benefits to the enterprises, because too many new technologies are getting adopted like ADAS, V2X, more into entertainment. 5G technology is aptly sitting in addressing that part. So from a telco standpoint, we see the evolution of the use cases, evolution of industry-specific use cases is going to power the adoption of 5G. That's how the landscape is going to change.
Thank you so much for that. You want to, Harpin?
So maybe since we started on this side, I'll add to it. So I would say that there are multiple facets to it, but three things kind of stand out as a technology provider we have seen is, first thing is, India has taken lead in deploying 5G standalone network. I mean, this happened in phases elsewhere, like in other places, 5G was deployed as non-standalone and then standalone came. There's a significant benefit to that. The second thing is that India is a mobile country. People are not tethered to broadband. So 4G and 5G play a very significant role in terms of providing broadband connectivity. So 5G fixed wireless access also has been significant asset to provide the fiber replacement, right? And talking of enterprise, what Gopal mentioned, I would say that banking is one major enterprise that quickly shifted to using cellular technology for all the transactions. I would say these are the three things that kind of stand out. There are multiple things, but I'll let other speakers add to that.
Sure. Let me direct this now to my friend Mr. Piyush, since the backdrop comes from more of a platform provider. I would like to request you to throw some light on an understanding for the audience and myself as well on the early leaders, the emerging industries, and from that point of view, what's your perspective here? And I request your global perspective also.
Yeah. See, 5G adoption in India, as we all know, has been limited to B2C audience, and
right.
And the B2B use cases which we always had talked about, the uptake for that has been a little slow. I will come there, but before I come there for India, I will talk about some of the regions where I have seen the uptake for those use cases and how that has actually been taken. So let me talk about, because 5G has got two additional dimensions in addition to bandwidth and speed, right? Which is ultra reliable low latency use cases, and then MMTC, which is massive machine type communication, right? So these two dimensions of 5G has actually resulted into many use cases. And some of those I can talk about is, let's say, in terms of mining industry, power panels, solar power panels, windmills, where sending the resources to those places for maintenance, for managing those things is pretty costly, as well as there are health hazards associated with it, right? So there, instead of sending the human, this has been managed by robots or machines, and the connectivity and the kind of connectivity which is required for those machines to operate in those kind of locations has been provided by 5G. So 5G has been enabler there. I can talk about health industry, where AR assisted remote surgery by the doctors and all that stuff. I can talk about, because I was in Australia last couple of months ago, I saw a lot of testing happening for driverless cars, right? So it's being under testing, and very soon I think it will be commissioned as well. They are still testing it. So the connectivity for those kind of things, the kind of latency which is required for those kind of use cases is provided by 5G, right? And then the very important use case which I think Gopal talked about, touched upon it, is Industry 4.0. So I have seen it in my previous company, without naming it. I can talk about the manufacturing, the entire factory was automated, and 5G was a very classic replacement for technology like Wi-Fi. Instead of Wi-Fi, you use private 5G, and that provides you that reliable speed, latency, which is required for things like AGVs and all that stuff, which are very much important for automating those factories. So I think these are the use cases I can talk about from global market perspective. 5G has also been very, very good in terms of fixed wireless access, where countries like America, where laying down the fiber to all those remote places is pretty much costly. FWA provides you a very great alternative for those fibers to home kind of solution. So these are the use cases I have seen in first world countries. So I think I will stop at that.
Thank you so much for that detailed and intense insight. And I'll move to Atul. If you could also, Atul, throw some light and help us understand. What we understand here is this is more about integration. It's about computing, AI and platforms coming together, edge computing. Now, what is so critical about this? What needs to be taken care? And of course, when it is about many things coming together, convergence, we speak about partnerships. So how will that evolve, at least in a country like India or Bharat, I will say? So would you like to explain to us and help us understand this better?
Thanks for that. That's actually a really relevant question being asked today. Now, 5G is a technology from a connectivity perspective, but a private 5G into an enterprise is an ecosystem play, right? You cannot have just the wireless side of it. What you will need is, and I think Gopal touched upon it, you will need enterprises to understand and work with enterprises to ensure their legacy OT IT, their legacy systems, the machines, the PLCs, the cameras, all of them will have to be integrated, and that integration will have to happen with the edge devices and the cloud, essentially to give the low latency decision making. Now, one aspect is the decision is taken at the edge. For example, and I think Piyush did cover, robotic surgeries. Now, if you have an application which is at the edge, the decision making needs to happen at the edge. And I'm sure you understand that there is no chance of a latency out, right? And AI comes up here because the intelligence, for example, in a factory shop, where for a vehicle manufacturer, if you have to analyze the paint job and see and take a decision whether the paint has been correctly done or not, again, an AI-enabled edge compute is essential to do the decision making. Now, while we say AI and the cloud, these applications will have to be developed by startup organizations, right? Because as an infrastructure AWS provider, I will provide the intelligence through some of the services which could sit either at the cloud or at the near edge or on the premise based on which is the type of use case, what is the latency requirements. So telco provides the connectivity, the OEMs will provide the application in terms of what sort of a core is there. Do you have a separate core? Do you need a standalone core specifically for the private 5G? Your startups will provide applications, and cloud providers like AWS will provide AI, ML, edge, and compute services at the edge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Harpinder and Feng, any views on this part? How about the seamless integration coming together to fuel 5G?
I think Atul touched upon one very important point that I would like to reiterate. So as we all know, 5G was initiated as a service-based architecture, and one of the fundamental part of that was to exposing network capabilities as APIs and having standardized those and making those available to enterprises to innovate and leverage the network, right? That is a very important aspect of it. And telcos have to play a very critical role in this area because enterprises don't have access to spectrum. So from that perspective, telcos need to provide not just same network that they're providing to consumers, but more tailored private 5G version of it, which is kind of fine-tuned to the needs of the enterprises. It doesn't have to be heavyweight. It has to be tied to IoT-centric, or if it is latency-sensitive use cases, then tailoring it to that aspect. So that is the second aspect. And then third one is to leverage other industry trends that are happening. AI is a very important part of that. And in fact, 5G already had the AI functions as part of the service-based architecture. Just exploring that and trying to enable industry at the edge, which cannot afford to send the data to the cloud, or which cannot afford to really leverage models sitting at hyperscalers and cloud. So enabling the industry to use 5G and to fine-tune the existing models for their use cases, running in the edge or within the box. That is another aspect, and I think we are making a good start in that domain as well.
Feng, any views on this from your side?
Okay, that's, before I express my opinion on this, it's, I would like to share our own experience. Okay,
Please.
it's, because Pegatron is a worldwide manufacturer, design and manufacturer. And worldwide, we have the 26 operation site running every kind of products. So since back to 6 or 7 years ago, we started the 5G journey. And at that time, we make the decision, we want to convince our customers to utilize 5G. It means that we internally, we need to utilize the 5G by ourselves. Then later on, that this decision pretty much create a lot of the, I would say, kind of a lot of thinking, and we finally approved that it's a right decision, because when we discuss with a lot of customers, there are lots of the difficulty feedback from their internal side, because they need to change the system, and there's a lot of arguments around here. But because we run our own factory, as a matter of fact, I can tear down my original existing system and transfer totally to 5G infrastructure. So in past 2 years, we fully understand is the 5G is very important part as the communication infrastructure, and plus AI, lots of the discussion about the AI, and also involve the domain knowledges. Then that's a very possible way to do the manufacturers, we call it manufacturer digital transformation. So you can imagine that, I mean, I take a very simple way is how we reshape our internal operation. It's, when we do the 5G, we found that it's a very beneficial from the mobility. Okay, this mobility makes the overall operation from static to dynamic flexibilities. And for example, that for the AGV AMR, we're no longer worried about that AGV AMR problem, because it's, the performance is consistent, and the coverage is without any concern issue. That reduces a lot of cost from management point of view. And so that from our internal operation experience, that's also create, for example, that we have a lighthouse, 5G lighthouse factory in Batam, and that's a small island. It's around 45 minutes ferry time from Singapore. And this factory is around 55,000 square meters. Right now, this factory is totally running, 100% running in 5G. And that has create kind of the flexibility to change the production line and to make the consistent management system, and also, I would say, kind of the real-time system to run our operations. And we can make sure all the mobility in our factory environment that can provide very consistent way and produce the required information. And so we are thinking we might have this kind of capability already, so we are shooting for some time period, well, possibly end of this year or early next year. We hope we can provide kind of the digital twin dashboard to our customers to let our customers remotely understand what their products is doing in the factory and also overall operation in the factories. And in that case, we hope that the customers don't need, it's not necessary for them to come to the factory anymore. Okay.
Thanks for the insight, and that helps me with a new question that has come on the antenna. I'll reserve that for a while. I'll move to Julian. We need some guidance from you to understand. See, while we are talking about growth, development on all sides, okay, we are talking about convergence coming together. But all this we all know, since this is a country based and there's a lot of security involved, policy comes into picture, legal matters come. And we request if you could put your views on this policy advocacy from countries outside India versus what has to be done in India, and how do we scale here as well. So having said that, my friends Atul and Piyush also spoke, and there are case studies also put up, but somewhere India as a country is still lagging behind, especially on the enterprise part. And somewhere we also feel that there is a lot of policy advocacy needed. So would you like to please throw some light here?
Sure. I mean, there's obviously a very active conversation in India now around spectrum allocation, things like that. But I think CY's comments are very good. I mean, he's the owner of a factory that only launched a couple of months ago in a country that actually hasn't even launched 5G spectrum, hasn't even optioned 5G spectrum or anything else. But it's proceeding, partnered with Telkomsel and everything else. So actually, a lot of the policy, I think, discussions gets distracted into some sort of solution or activity, when actually we need to think, what are we trying to do? We're trying to activate enterprise, trying to transform industry. And if it's not happening, then let's look at why not. Because where spectrum's allocated is probably not why not. There's everyone sitting here on the panel here plays a part in a value chain that helps deliver a 5G transformation. And when you speak to somewhere like CY or some other, so the guys from NUHS in Singapore who do the private 5G in the hospital and everything else, they are 100% convincing that 5G is the way of the future. And when you listen to them speak, there's no telecom person who can speak in the way they speak about how they have changed their business. And it's not just about making connectivity a little bit faster or anything else. It's about they have changed the way the business operates. It's not just a little bit cheaper or anything else, but the factory works differently, the interactions work differently, and the productivity is not measured just in dollars, but it's measured in shorter operation time, quicker recovery times, supply chain benefits, and everything else. So from a policy and advocacy point of view, it's about how do we activate industry? How do we make industry confident that the technology is here, that the value chain, the systems integrators, everyone is aware? And because the other thing is, we spent the last 20 years being regulated by an ICT ministry who are reasonably well aware of what happens in the technology, but we're now trying to change a whole bunch of other ministries, a whole bunch of other industries who are not that technically savvy, not very well of 5G. And so there's still an information education process to go through, not just from the industry, but also from the government. So that the various ministries, whether it's agriculture or other things, are also making the regulatory and policy changes to support the transformation. I think that is the challenge, is getting the confidence. And the one thing I would say confidence about India is there's very top-down, India's going to be great, India's going to be a leader. And so while we might sit around and say, we're not doing fast enough or not doing good enough, actually the progress isn't, is not too bad. In actual fact, there's a lot of the world looking at India. I mean, I've been to a factory down in Chennai, Sundaram Clayton, making aluminium castings for Mercedes-Benz, Hyundai. I mean, competing on a global supply chain in heavy industry. Most people wouldn't think there's 5G involved, but they're building a brand new 5G factory because just on monitoring the autonomous vehicles driving around with the molten aluminium, they can make the business case of transforming to 5G. And so I think there is a time lag of industry coming to grips with the technology, the ecosystem coming together to deliver the end-to-end solution. And the policy and I think policy leaders, the regulators, need to be thinking about how to enable the ecosystem rather than disrupt and maybe imbalance the way the ecosystem works. Because at the end of the day, mobile operators have a lot of experience in rolling out 5G and rolling out mobile networks, and in an efficient way of allocating spectrum, things like that. It's about can they allocate it efficiently as part of a much bigger solution, as we're also getting approvals for rights of way, building towers on sites, things like that. That is what's going to make ecosystem flourish. I mean, you've only got to go to China, and I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of 5G use cases. So it's not that it doesn't work. It's about education and enablement rather than, I think, restrictive policies and unbalancing the ecosystem.
Thanks for that. Quite detailed. Yeah, Piyush.
Just wanted to give another perspective on that. 5G technology enables so many use cases and for so many industries. And those use cases might be different for different part of the world, right? So what we need to figure out in India is what use cases are relevant for India, because what is relevant for a country like Australia might not be relevant for India. But then India has got a very diverse ecosystem. So there are use cases like agriculture, where we can make use of 5G. Use cases for remote education for villages, where you can use AR, VR technologies for education and those kind of stuff. We have to find out our own use cases. See, 5G enables you with so many use cases. What, as a country, we need to find out and agree upon is what are those use cases which are relevant for India, and then enable the ecosystem around it. That's the way to go ahead, in my opinion.
That leads to one more question, and maybe Piyush and Atul, both of you especially, since you are also into client-facing interactions from your product and services on cloud that you offer. So with these kind of use cases that you're talking about, and a very specific set for a country like India, okay, and definitely which is again definitely not generation one, but yes, it is aspiring to go ahead in that line. I would want to know in a very pinpointed way, what are the apprehensions raised by clients right now to migrate to 5G? I think if we solve that question, the entire growth path gets opened up.
So I think globally, there's different markets moving ahead at different speeds. I mean, if you look at a country like Malaysia set out 5 years ago something like that to be a regional leader. Government's been a bit on off. Their strategy has been a bit unclear. Enterprise sits back, industry sits back, waits for stability, waits for everything to settle down and be confident. I think one thing India's advantage is the strong government push. But if I was to look around globally, in 2018 or 2019, when I first went to Korea, 6 weeks after first launch, if you look at a GSMA report from then, we would not forecast India to be a 5G leading nation. Like, you can change with positive government policies and modernization and regulation and a positive industry sentiment. You can change momentum. I mean, even if you look at Vietnam only launched 5G at the end of last year. They drastically reduced the reserve prices on spectrum by about 90%. They'd had a failed 5G auction a couple of years before. And then since the auction, they've launched a rebate for mobile operators of 15% of their build cost up to the license fee paid if they build out more coverage. Because the government is committed to transforming the nation. And that's a country that does 95% of their exports are manufacturing. India's what? 15, 17% manufacturing, aiming for 25%. Globally, as was mentioned before, manufacturing is going 5G. If you want to compete on a global scale, global supply chain, you have to be looking at this.
I like to add to that. So, when talking to clients, 3 apprehensions clearly come out. And this is the experience we've had talking with some of the Indian as well as global customers, and that's the global perspective. One is about integration, and I think I spoke around integration that, I have legacy systems, how are going to integrate, who's going to do it. The second, which clearly comes up, is skills. I don't have skills. Do I need to now employ a new set of people to manage my RF, or is there going to be new applications which will come up? Who's going to manage them? And the third part, and I've still not come to cost, the third part is more on data and visibility. So IoT will bring in heaps of data, right? What do you do with the data? Now you need a decision making through the data. You will need right set of dashboards for the CXOs. You will need decision making at the edge, and still ensure that you are in the right compliance boundaries, right? Because a lot of data gets generated by devices, right? And you need to ensure that all of it is interoperable. The biggest part, ROI, and there are bits on ROI, and we'll talk more when we come to the ROI bit. And ROI puzzle will get solved if you have the use cases getting solved and the ecosystem getting solved.
See, one very important apprehension, I am coming to the cost part
Please.
directly because technology...
Cost and ROI is most critical.
Yeah, because technology is something which we all can solve, right? Most of the decisions which are taken at the business level are taken based on the investment, which is upfront investment, and the ROI for that. Technology comes second when it comes to business decisions, okay? We all are from the technology side, so we can solve the problems for the customers from the technology point of view. What we are unable to solve for them is, and that's something which they have to solve and we can facilitate, is what kind of investment are they ready to undergo, right? What they want to take, and what is the ROI they are looking for. And that's where the use case puzzle needs to be solved, because no business leader is approving that particular business case without this answer that if I invest today this much, by when I will get the ROI, right? When I will get the break even, when I will get the growth. Because otherwise all the technology discussions are just for having discussions, good discussions. That's what I think is the thing. And I feel we should not look at 5G as in isolation. And that's where I think Atul was talking about. So far, we have been looking at 5G in isolation, providing connectivity with low latency, MMTC and all that. But 5G unified with data, analytics, and the end-to-end orchestration will be the only way to realize the full value of 5G, which is the 5G promise, right? And with AI thing coming into picture now, all those decision making, all the data which you are collecting at the edge, all that analytics can happen, all that real-time decision making can happen, all that closed looping can happen. And I think that is the impetus I think the industry was waiting for. And I think AI, with all that analytics capability and the kind of technology we have in our hand, actually provides an end-to-end solution for that.
I just want to add one point, if I may.
Please.
Okay. While Piyush said about the cost, the return on investments, while in our experience, when we engage with the customers on adopting the 5G for their, whether it's smart manufacturing, smart mobility, any other use cases, generally it comes to the cost. Finally, they want to dabble with new technologies. The positioning the enterprises first take is to replace the technology. I have archaic old Wi-Fi or XYZ technology. Here I have the new technology. Why can't I kind of adopt it? If you look at 5G as an adoption of new technology, relinquishing the old one, I don't think it's going to work. Because many things have to happen within the companies, within the enterprises in terms of transformation, which is not there today. Their operational technology is old. Their IT systems are old. OT and IT are not talking to each other. Bringing a technology on 5G is not going to help the enterprises. That's where the actual breaking point happens. While they want to do the POC, they have 1 or 2 use cases to dabble with. They find encouraging results, but it does not progress into a full-fledged adoption of 5G into the network. I think the AI, what Piyush talked about and Atul talked about, the edge computing, the surroundings now are taking place. Now, enterprises are fast adopting to the AI, ML, and then new technology, digitization, and all of them is happening. That is forcing them to change or bring the transformation into the OT, IT domain. Once that happens, automatically 5G will sit in prettily. Therefore, it is to be seen as a strategic investment point, not as a technology replacement point. That's where the ball gets dropped, because ROI equations comes in place, investment issues comes in place, then people doesn't want to take a few steps forward.
Thanks for that, Gopala. So, guys, I'll just summarize the discussion that has happened so far. That yes, definitely India is lacking behind. If you look at use cases and developments happening in the developed nations, you see there are cases in thousands, whereas here there are hardly 2 digits that we are able to see. Now that showcases the scope as well, that there's a huge landscape, there's growth path available. At the same time, the challenges that are there for any project to kick off. Now there are 2 major feasibilities that need to be closed out. One is the tech feasibility, and of course followed by the financial one. And as gentlemen have already said, the investors always have a very simple basic question is, what do I get here and what is the timeline? Moving ahead from here, a couple of direct questions directed to each of you and quick ones, one-line answers. So guys, if we are saying that there is so much of scope going ahead, But at the same time, we are talking even about driverless cars. We're talking about remote surgeries. We are talking about factories that will operate on robots without people. So help me understand, and even the audience people, is will this take off? Will this highway of 5G moving upwards, will this increase jobs or reduce jobs? Please.
Yeah, I think I'll take a controversial view here is that we are trying to look for disruptive use cases, whereas the problems, simpler problems, we are ignoring them. I think we have to start simple. We have to look at what problems we have today and how we can leverage 5G technology as in an integrated way. That is the right approach rather than coming up with a killer use case, right? So that is, I would say that is one fundamental requirement there. And as Gopal mentioned, right, there are competing technologies that are being, or legacy technologies that are out there as well. So there is an element of keeping it as open as possible so that integration can happen. It's a tough problem as to how we solve, how quickly we can solve that. But the important thing is start small and scale up. Scale is very important to get the right cost and get the right benefits.
Gopal, on employment.
Yeah, so I see, I know everybody knows, been spoken a lot. 5G has got immense potential, definitely. But only thing what we have to crack is that what are those killer use cases in what segments? I'll give you an example. We have been doing a POC with one of the heavy engineering company with precision engineering in all of them. If the assets are distributed in different places, okay, no Wi-Fi, no other technology work, where the capacity requirements are very, very high, uplink and downlink. So 5G sits in that particular environment very, very well. Therefore, if it is a crane operations or any other port operations and all of them, those are the use cases 5G will definitely take off, and it has taken off across the globe. India, it has its own problems in terms of addressing the use case part of it. Once it is done, I think 5G will take off in certain industries, certain segments very well. And one more power segment or a powering aspect of that is IoT growth. So far, India has been just scratching the surface of the IoT growth in terms of both scale and what are the different use cases. I see it's fast growing, especially in smart mobility, where I see propensity of the end user to consume so much of data, real-time data, therefore requiring some high throughput connectivity and faster internet and so on and so forth. I think proliferation of IoT is going to definitely enhance the requirement of 5G adoption. In fact, one of the problems that IoT currently faces is that it's an ecosystem play. The previous panel was talking about 5G adoption is also dependent on the ecosystem play. It's not connectivity is one of the technology, but rest all has to come in play. Edge computing, people talked about cloud, people talked about AI, and also the devices, device intelligence. I think when all things comes into play, ecosystem comes together, then killer use cases will come. Automatically adoption of 5G will start happening. In fact, in that regard, I want to place in fact, Vodafone Idea led an initiative called IoT Innovation Lab. We were trying to participate as a telco-led participation to solve this problem, not only to address the current problems of varied ecosystem coming together, and also trying to see how we can co-create new use cases, enabling the enterprises to come and test and then see and create some new cases. We are working with AWS to create that opportunity. I think that's the way the world is going to go. And once new use cases starts coming in, adoption will automatically happen.
So here, Piyush and Atul on the employment side, you people represent business here.
Yeah, so, you know, I am a very optimist kind of a guy. So when you ask this question where we are bringing technology to replace human, so what does that mean for us, especially for a country like India? We are very populated nation, lot of people, cheap labor, skilled labor available. But I want to give you an analogy. I don't know how many of you have visited Kolkata, but in Kolkata there used to be a time where the rickshaw was pulled by a human.
Right.
Like they used to call it hath rickshaw. Then there was a time came when the motorized rickshaws were there, or non-motorized rickshaws were there. Still there was a human connection to that because there was a driver riding that rickshaw. Now we have e-rickshaws in Delhi,
right,
but we still have a driver. So what I'm trying to say that is that technology, this transformation, this evolution will happen. But then what will it do to human part is that the kind of job they were doing earlier, that will change. These new technologies will also create opportunities for new type of jobs.
Very nice.
You know, like we are talking about data scientists. look at the data science. Like if we had talked 10 years ago, 5 years ago, nobody knew who was data science in India at least, right?
No.
Now it's a boom. So many data science requirements
It's
and all
become
that
an
stuff.
engineering branch, in fact.
So yes, altogether we are now teaching in management, we are
Right.
teaching in engineering. So with this evolution and transformation, I believe there will be new type of skills which will be required, which will create jobs for the people who might lose job because of the robot. So it's not that the job is going anywhere. It's just the nature, the way it is being done today will change.
Thanks, Piyush. I'd like to pivot by saying that, we've been saying that in a lot of countries, 5G adoption has taken really fast. The question is not about how fast. I believe the question has to be what is the business outcome, right? And what can we do? Because India has seen that, we have been able to leapfrog and we've been able to deliver on things which has been unprecedented. And I think today the Prime Minister ji mentioned some of those stats in terms of what we do with UPI, right?
Right.
The important thing to note here is, and Gopal touched upon it, and Piyush and other panelists, it's an ecosystem play. The ecosystem has to be ready. When we say that, these players, so telco is going to bring the spectrum, we'll have, AWS bringing in the edge and AI, the partners working along with us. We are forgetting that startups will play a great role. They'll build up innovative use cases to sit at the edge and take these actions. So it's naturally going to innovate, and I think the theme is innovate to transform. I believe we'll have to do that to solve this puzzle.
Thank you so much for that, and that was quite insightful and encouraging as well to learn that opportunities are there. Yeah, Julian, you have something.
My comment. I think we too often measure ourselves by past metrics. How many devices are being used or whatever else. There's more than 2 billion people using a 5G device. The mobile economy globally is about 5.5%. By the end of this decade, we expect 5G will contribute about 15 to 20% of the APAC economy. I mean, that's hundreds of billions of dollars. And you say, well, where is it all? I mean, you're starting to see smart glasses. People start to wear glasses in the street and things like that. 2 or 3 years ago, they weren't here. Nobody would have thought they're coming. It is coming. I mean, 5G is going to be the dominant technology tool well towards the back of the next decade at least. I mean, things are coming, and I think there's an inertia to overcome, but India has, I think, an outsized role to play because of its position globally, manufacturing, and the commitment from top. And you've got the big 5G network now, that actually a lot of things are going to come before the end of the decade.
Okay, thanks. Quick one. Any one of you would like to comment on what are the biggest untapped opportunities that Indian enterprises still have, which are untapped? Biggest one or two biggest one. Any one of you? Anyone, please.
The biggest opportunities to, probably just follow a quick, for last question, and very speaking, I strongly believe that India has very good opportunity for 5G. The reason why is first, just I mentioned about the government's strong support on this and push for this. And second is that 5G pretty much is I will consider adapt to the manufacturing environment will be as the very first step, and for India as the future war factory, that will be kind of the advantage. On the other hand, 5G is very much aligned with the AI. So, and AI today is worldwide pushing. And so I take one example in our factory, and I hope that will happen in India very fast and very quick. And so that also means that I believe factory side will be a very opportunity for India. For example, that in our factory we call this AI SOP. It means that we monitoring the worker assembling process and the record the process, how worker did, and align with the standard process. So in that way, we can make sure that worker really do the assembly process right, and at the same time, we're using camera to make sure that all the component is really on the products as expected. But later on, that's mainly for detecting the worker problem or defect units. But later on, we found that because we go through put those video record into the edge AI computing, and we found that there are a few advantages that we found that AI can help to improve the process itself. Not really defined by the process by human, but as a matter of fact, they possibly can help the assembly process in more efficient way. So you can see that a transfer from quality side to cost side. So for factory side, we mentioned about the QCTS. As a matter of fact, if talking about only the cost side, that would be too narrow because the quality also impact the cost. The delivery also impact the cost, and even the S means the reaction is also impact the cost. So everything in that way, as a matter of fact, you can look at the 5G in overall opportunities. So I think that
Sure.
India is.
Thank you for that. Gopala, you have something?
Yeah, one of the important thing that is changing from an enterprise standpoint is an internal transformations. I think the technology 5G, earlier it used to be a chicken and egg situations. The innovations used to be restricted because the connectivity options are not much. And therefore, one is leading to the other. Now, with the advent of technologies like 5G, with ultra low latency options and higher bandwidth, faster internet throughputs and so on and so forth, the developers are now able to stretch themselves to think something new and dabble something with what they would not be doing it before. I think that internal transformation is the key now. And that is one biggest opportunity I see the technology connect, because everything is becoming connected now. Already it has become connected, it will become more and more connected. Therefore, once the connectivity is given, it will give rise to a lot of internal transformation, innovations and all of them. I think enterprises look at that as the biggest opportunity in my view.
I'll probably like to add
Please,
one more
please.
point. The way I see it is, India is a very diverse country and we still have a lot of manual labor, okay? And especially in difficult terrains like mines, etc. So, using the power of the ecosystem play and, some of these larger organizations out here, if we are able to solve the problem which impacts the people's life at large, right? I believe that is going to be the biggest differentiator for us. And we've seen that when India has, decided to jump into problems, it is able to transform, and we would be able to create solutions that transform the larger community and the world.
Interesting.
So
Right.
Given that I love food and I have a farming background, I would say that farming within India has the biggest potential and also potential to distribute wealth, not just in metropolitans, but across the rural India. So I would say that farming enabled by 5G, that you predict demand, you manage the growth of the crops, and then subsequently manage the supply efficiently so that the food wastage is minimum. I think this can really transform the country from bottoms up.
Please.
I believe we are at a situation where we are solving most of our technical problems. 5G is there, connectivity is there, we are transforming, most of the legacy architecture is getting transformed. I have seen all the operators and technology providers, they are transforming it. So we are at the cusp of the place where with new technology and the legacy getting transformed, we will start solving the puzzles in terms of the use cases and all. So because I would not say anything untapped because we have not yet realized the value. So, but we are at the right time where you will see that the value will start getting realized.
Thanks. Thank you for that. So, time to wrap up some
Just gonna make
closure
one
remarks.
point.
Yeah,
I know,
please,
you might
please.
find one. Then I would say 40% of India is still not connected. Connecting those people massively increases the domestic addressable market, and then that makes India an incredible global powerhouse in export of what it invents here.
Okay. So, gentlemen, to wrap up, I'll say the topic for the day was, is 5G fueling the enterprise shift? And there's a question mark at the end. So, which comes with an answer. The answer is definitely yes. It may take some time. It may take some time because India is still on the progression path. Scope definitely is immense. We have heard about lots of use cases from gentlemen who have experience across the globe in different industries. And of course, the leaders who take it up first, especially farming, as rightly spoke about, healthcare, logistics, manufacturing, ports. These are the areas that will be fueling the growth in this segment. And the most important point, a question that I have been asked in many other forums as well, in education institutes, other places, is how about the job opportunities? If everything gets automated, where will the people go? I got a very profound and lovely answer here from my colleagues over here, is that yes, job opportunities will definitely increase. The interesting part is this will lead to even fueling even more education in the people. The literacy levels will increase. Today itself, you take examples of digitization, the last 5-6 years, people I have seen with 75, 80 years plus of age also use smartphone. They prefer to pay by GPay. They understand what is Facebook. They understand what is technology. And now with this fueling at the base and with more branches and streams coming in, definitely the education will get more deepened. There will be more people coming with more intellect and better jobs will come in picture. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. Audience, any questions before I close from your side? Please.
My one question is that we have been talking about IoT and we have been talking about 5G. To me, IoT devices have been there for a long time, and there have been pure play networks of, for example, Aries Communication, etc., which had designed the networks purely for IoT and edge computing, not edge computing, but for IoT devices. So how does 5G come into play, especially with the high cost of 5G deployment, in terms of, if I were to look at it, for every 5G enabled IoT device, my average cost for that device would be fairly high. That's my question.
Anyone would like to take this? Gopal? Piyush?
Just let you know, IoT has been there for decades. We all know that. But the uptake for that was not that great also. But what 5G does is, because of this enhancements in the technology, the power, because you know the IoT and those kind of things are mostly at the remote area, where power usage by the device is one of the very critical factor, right? With 5G, the power which was required earlier is now far more less, number one, right? So your battery life and those kind of things increases by multifolds for those IoT devices. Second thing, with MMTC, which is massive machine type communication, what has happened is the number of devices, the IoT devices which could get connected, the density, that has also gone pretty high, from 10,000 to in 100Ks and something like that, right? So those things, and the real value of IoT, the data which you are collecting needs to be analyzed. Some action needs to, some decision making needs to happen, right? And then some closed looping needs to be done. So with 5G and with the automation which 5G brings and the kind of connectivity it provides, all those things has very advanced. And that's where the real value of IoT and will come to. That's where 5G helps.
So I think
second
the
point,
good
sorry
thing
if I
is
may.
we're talking about multi-industry expansion. Gopal,
If I may
please.
add to that point, you are right, IoTs are very trickling data, 5 kbps, 6 kbps is the small, but in my experience it is now evolving into a more and more data guzzling devices, you know. People wants to pull more and more data. I'll give you a small example. Automatic, the AMI, the meter, smart meters, it used to transmit 5 kb data just to give the reading from there. Now it is translating or transforming the entire power industry. In fact, the power management, peak analysis, trough analysis, all of them are being done with the small device. That means the DISCOMs, the AMI SPs are wanting to draw more and more data from that. Automatically devices will become more powerful. The memory will become bigger, the processing will become bigger. Therefore, the data connectivity requirements will become bigger. That is as far as single device is concerned. If congregation of multiple devices come, then you need a strong network to transport the data. Therefore, I think one leads to the other is actual problem statement here. So, the advent of good technology like 5G, which has got a good capability in terms of throughput as well as latencies, is obviously going to power that transformation happening.
In fact, I'd like to add, so and extending to what Gopal said, when you have all of this data, if you didn't had edge computing and AI, you would need to have a large server out there sitting. Now you can't have these large servers sitting at remote locations. That's where you have intelligence at the edge and cloud spread out in a continuum. So the applications which don't need a lot of latency can sit at the core, right? And which are larger data centers. For applications where there are hundreds of milliseconds of latency, you will have a industrial region where you can have some sort of local zone. That's how we call it in AWS. But in areas where you need decision making at that point, at the industry, you will then have devices out there. So, then the cost reduces, because what happens, you do the training at the core and you kind of build the intelligence into the edge, and the actions has been taken by the intelligence which is at the edge. So you don't need to train your devices. That's how also you reduce cost. Because Spectrum is already done, Spectrum is costly. You will need to find innovative ways to reduce the actions and the decision costs.
So the IoT transforming to intelligent IoT is the next phase, which is what is going to.
So that should be a topic for next time. IIoT. Okay, thank you all of you. Thank you so much. Thanks for time. Yes. Quick. We can do it very quick. Please.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sakshi Patel from Sri Balaji University, Pune. My question is, how will IoT devices transform the educational landscape?
See, I am not aware of how IoT is going to transform the education landscape, but the things which can transform the education landscape is AR and VR technologies, okay? So you can use AR for remote education, VR for training skill, imparting skills to the workforce and all that stuff. So that's where 5G technology with AR and VR is gonna transform the education landscape in terms of remote education, because of the connectivity, the kind of throughput it provides. It can support those kind of technologies, right, for remote education. But IoT, I doubt. IoT can do wonders in agriculture, because you can, measure the moisture level at the, sand or the soil and all that stuff. A lot of things you can do with IoT in agriculture side. But in education, I feel it is AR, VR technology which will transform the landscape.
So IoT is generally a machine to machine. Education is machine to a person, right? So the communications will help you, because smart education is largely remote education he talked about. You'll be able to access the content sitting at your home without any hassle, Earlier you used to go and then get the books and then read all of them. So education will become smart education with the advent of new technologies. But IoT is a machine to machine, is machine to human.
Yeah,
So
I was just going to make the one thing. It's going to change what you study. That's what will change. If you study agriculture, you would have studied about rain or moisture content in the soil. Now you will study data analysis, big data analysis, about how the ecosystem is changing in real time.
Okay, thank you once again, all of you. Thank you, IMC, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Vinny, for allowing us to speak.
You're too kind, Rajesh. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful session and excellent moderation. As a token of our gratitude, there are a few mementos. Rajesh, if you could